we had a good time coming up with all these characters, knowing that Sadie was sort of a blend of Amy and me and women heroines that we love. And, ultimately then Rina. It was a blast.
Oh my God. This show is amazing. I watched it in a day, and truly my only complaint is I need season two right now. Like, it's so good.
Oh,
Yay.
you're listening to Warner Brothers ears. Thank you.
Amy, what was the adaptation process like of bringing like the heart of your book to life in a TV show?
It was, as I told Greg Berlanti, a peak life experience, I have to say. I actually ended up meeting Warner Brothers executives, Susan Rovner and Clancy Collins White, while I was still writing the book. And I told them about it, and they were just kind of instantly in. and then Greg Berlanti came on to produce it, and he and Sarah Schechter identified this chapter, The Girls on the Bus, and said, we knew we didn't want to relive 2016. Nobody wants to see that again. So we identified this chapter, The Girls on the Bus, and how these women, kind of very different women, became a found family on the campaign bus. And so from there, luckily I ended up meeting Julie Plec, and we dreamed up these four women. And yeah, it was incredible. By the time we were creating a fictional Democratic National Convention with it was a huge production. You saw the show, so you've seen our balloon drop. But it was very surreal and incredible to be on set of a kind of kind of rewriting history in a way. I mean, just being able to, Rena would always encourage me in the writer's room, what conversation do you wish you could have had, with a candidate when you were covering politics? Because here you can. So it was just such a privilege to play with our imaginary friends and get to, say something about the world.
And then Julie, what did Melissa bring not only as the lead of the show, but a producer as well?
I wasn't there while she was there, but I am a very, very huge fan of hers and a good friend of hers. And I can say there's not a nicer, more responsible, more respectful, more passionate, more engaging, more like just kind actor on this planet. She is the real deal. She's everything that you wish for. So I will pass the torch to Rina to answer the second half of the question, but I can only imagine she was incredible.
Yeah, she brought leadership, and I think there is this concept. We all know there's the number one on the call sheet. And what does that mean? And so often in universes, number one on the call sheet is the person that everyone fears, because if they're in a bad mood, everyone's in a bad mood. And Melissa takes the responsibility so seriously, and in fact, never shows up in a bad mood. If she's ever had one, I've never seen it, because when she comes to work, she understands that she's there to sort of be that person. And I think she took that element of a producer as well. She took it really seriously. She helped us choose our hair. She helped us choose a lot of our crew heads. She was part of the meetings in all of that. And her priority, which was wonderful, was I want them to be nice people. And especially, like, I remember specifically when we were setting up meetings with hair and makeup, because the cast is often, they're sitting in that trailer. That's where they show up at 4:30 every morning. And yes, some people would say, I want the person that's going to make me look the most beautiful. And Melissa was like, I want the person who is going to make me feel the most comfortable and make everyone in the trailer feel the most comfortable. And that was sort of how she was from top to bottom. Yeah, we could talk about how much we love Melissa forever. She's amazing. She's just amazing.
That's such a smart detail. I love that. And then Rina, one of my favorite parts of the show truly is that this not only deals with very different political perspectives, but it shows that how they like truly affect people, like with reproductive rights. We see a little bit of a debate, but then it's like, okay, but this is impacting a real life. Let's show that as well. Why was it important to show those two aspects of politics?
The way you framed that is actually so interesting, because I think what we would like to sneak in and sort of say and make sure everyone really knows is politics sounds like this terrible thing, and we get into fights about it, and it's really mean. And like, I have a young child who's growing up saying, I never want to get involved in politics ever. And I don't want to, but because it's created so much tension. But what the flip side of that is, it's really fucking important. It really affects every single aspect of our lives. And for some people more than others. And right now, I think women are feeling the particular squeeze of how much voting in one particular way and understanding what your vote means all the way down the line, and how it's going to ring back and hit you right where you're home if you don't think it matters. And then, oh my goodness, look at that. I can't pick up a pill, and that's just the first step. when it comes back and you can't get your birth control pill, it's all coming back around. So the show is hopefully not, again, we do not aim to preach. And I think Julie put it best, like we're here to entertain, but there is a little bit of, it's about what's really, it's important. It's not glib. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciated about the show and about the way that we all treated the show is like, let's not be preachy, but let's not be glib because it matters.
No, it feels very authentic and sincere, which is, I think, why it hits so well. And then Amy and Julie, can you talk to me about showing these 4 different women who have not only very different experiences in like life and journalism, but very different perspectives on the world as a whole?
Oh, I mean, that was to us the key. It was, Amy's talked about how there's a version of an adaptation of her novel, of her memoir that could have been like a Julia and Julia story, a young woman trying to make a name for herself in a career up against a more established woman who wants literally nothing to do with her. And I think that one day would actually make a great movie. So I hope that we get to do that too. But when we settled on making it a show about the kind of found family that develops in a bus tour across the country kind of circumstance, we just had to ask ourselves, okay, well, like we don't want the bus to be full of a bunch of women that just look like us and sound like us and think like us. So let's start figuring out who these women are. And it was really important to us to have sort of what at the time when we started this process was what I perceived to be the new wave of activists, which is that the young kids, and specifically in this case, the Parkland kids who had just gone through a pretty extraordinary gun tragedy. And from the ashes of that tragedy came like not 1, not 2, but like 10 new, very, very, very vocal activists. And so we looked at Emma Gonzalez and said, what would it look like if Emma Gonzalez, a few years later, after like being in the national spotlight and on the cover of Time magazine and, like invited to the White House, then decided she wanted to like hit the road and be a real journalist, but like had no training, no schooling, and no credibility other than that she was like, had more, Instagram followers than the Washington Post, right? So that was the heart of where Lola started as a character. What is new journalism? What is influencer journalism? For better or for worse, what is it? And what is the voice that these young activists are allowed and are going to continue to have in the journalistic space? And then we said, women have been doing this for a while. It's not new. Women have been clawing to get their way onto that bus for some time. Well, who was one of the first women to get on the bus? And what is she like today? Is she a dead mother? Is she a mentor? Is she a crazy old bitch? Like, what is she? And that's, the questions led to who Grace is. And then, with Kimberlyn, it was, we need to represent the other side of our aisle, personal aisle, like not everybody here can, be a blue flag toting Democrat. So who, we need a Republican, but who can we create that is a compassionate, believable, credible, and likable Republican? And we said, well, who would have every right to be a fiscal Republican in this world if we took certain people out of the equation would be a very, very smart Black woman. So then we went down that deep dive of trying to shape who Kimberlyn was going to be. So we had a good time coming up with all these characters, knowing that Sadie was sort of a blend of Amy and me and women heroines that we love. And, ultimately then Rina. It was a blast. It was a real blast.
I have to switch gears for 1 second because my editor is a huge Vampire Diaries fan.
Oh, yes.
So her biggest question was, is there more story to tell there?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a story I still want to tell. I know that the people who own the book have a story that they still want to tell. I'm sure Warner Brothers has plenty of stories they want to tell. So the hope is they'll give me the opportunity to do it again. So we'll see.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to me. This show is amazing. I hope there's like 12 seasons of it. It's so good.
Thank you.
That is so great. Thank you.